Hey everyone, Chase and Joel coming to you today with our 8th video in the series of 52 weeks of personal injury, and today we're going to talk to you about how medical providers can help or hurt your case. So Joel, why don't you kind of get us started on how a doctor can help your personal injury case?
Yeah, so I think probably other than your lawyer, the doctor may be the most important player in your entire claims process, and that's because if you're bringing a personal injury claim, well, the case is about your personal injury, right? And who better than your doctor to come in and explain through a deposition or a trial, what caused your injuries, the nature of your injuries, the treatment process, what all you've been through, as well as your future prognosis, right? What are you expected to go through in the future?
Right, exactly. So, our job obviously is to present the case, but we're not doctors. We read a lot of medical records and we might be able to say a couple of buzzwords here and there, but we're not the medical providers that can sort of connect the link on causation, right? Because we have to prove that, one, that the wreck happened, that you were injured, and that the wreck caused those injuries. And the doctor is the one that's going to testify, whether it's, like you said, through deposition, medical narrative, or whatever it may be, that the wreck or the injuries that you're now suffering from the wreck is because of the wreck. So yeah, doctors are very important. So I think that, a lot of times clients, especially, older clients who've had neck or back injuries before, they'll just use neck and back injuries because those are the most common, but they'll have treated with a doctor before a wreck, whether it's a chiropractor or a specialist, if they've had a prior surgery or something like that. It's always super important, in my opinion, to go back and see that doctor. That's a doctor you have a relationship with, a doctor who helped you get better in the past, and that's the doctor you want to help you get better following this car wreck. But more importantly, too, what a doctor can do in that situation is they can testify about how you were prior to the wreck and what your injuries were and how you got better, and then testify about how it's different or that it's that much worse. And it's because of the wreck, and here's what we had to do to make it better.
Yep.
So,
because you can recover for aggravation of a pre-existing injury, right?
Exactly.
So if you've got arthritis, you get in a car wreck, you get hurt, and it's the same area of a body that you may have arthritis in previously, you can still recover for that, but you're going to have some type of medical testimony that usually comes from your doctor that says that this prior condition you had was aggravated or made worse due to the trauma of whatever caused your personal injury.
Right, exactly. So I guess next we'll talk about how can a doctor hurt your case. I don't know if hurt's really the right word, but sometimes doctors, depending on the situation, won't necessarily be patient advocates in the legal setting. And by that I mean most doctors don't want to be deposed. Most doctors just want to treat their patients, and most doctors are dealing in black and white.
Yeah.
They're not dealing with more likely than nots, which is our standard.
And you can't blame them. I mean, Nobody really wants to be deposed, but if you're an orthopedic doc or a pain management doc or a neurologist or something like that, you're going to treat people that's been injured. So at some point, you're going to have to give testimony as to treatment of your patient. But you're right. They don't want to be deposed, and most doctors want to say what a good job they did, so that whatever treatment they provided to you or to the patient fixed the patient.
Right.
But it doesn't always fix the patient.
Sure.
We have plenty of situations where somebody goes to one doctor who tries this, it doesn't work. They go to another doctor and try this, it doesn't work. They go to Dr. 3, and what Dr. 3 does works. Right. Because you can have different opinions on what's the best course of treatment from doctors, and one may or may not work, and that option number 2 may be the one that works. But most doctors want to say what they did worked and made the patient better. But that's not always the case. But I'll tell you one way that doctors really can hurt your case is you see it a lot in workers' comp situations, but you can also see it in regular personal injury cases where the defense goes out and hires a expert with a MD behind his or her name, and their whole job is to come in and review the medical records and say, oh yeah, well this wreck didn't cause any of this, or this wreck didn't cause the arthritis. That arthritis is already there. They're not really hurt, whatever it happens to be. But they are absolutely experts. They get paid a ton of money by insurance companies and their lawyers to come in and say, I looked at all the records, Johnny ain't hurt.
Right. Yeah, here's the MRI report. I can tell from this MRI report that they're not feeling any pain. And that doctor will have never even laid eyes on the plaintiff, examined them or done anything, but they, certainly feel qualified to give an expert, report or opinion about how their injuries were in no way, shape, or form caused by this wreck.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's definitely another way how they can hurt your case.
Yep, and that's probably the most obvious way that a doctor can hurt your case. But another way a doctor can hurt your case is if, how do I put this? So I think it's really important that when you go to your doctor that you comply with the recommendations of his or her treatment. Like whatever they tell you to do, you need to do it. Because most doctors are going to be honest about, what you report to them, whether you're compliant with their recommended course of treatment. And if you don't do what they tell you to do to try to get better, then the doctor's going to have to say, well, I prescribed physical therapy for Chase, and, well, Chase only went 3 visits, and then he stopped going. Well, the next question is going to be, well, doctor, do you think if Chase had complied with your recommended treatment and gone to physical therapy that he'd be feeling a lot better than he is right now? Of course, or I wouldn't have recommended the treatment, right?
Exactly, yeah, and that goes towards, not necessarily the doctor hurting your case, it's the client that could hurt their case for themselves by not being completely open with their doctors, and not only about just doing what the doctors tell them to do, but also any prior conditions they've ever had, right? And that's another way that doctors, like your treating provider, if you go to the doctor and you've had a prior neck issue and you don't tell your doctor that you had a prior neck issue and he does all this treatment and all that, well, he's not going to be able to be too confident in saying that it was because of the wreck if all of a sudden it's sprung on this doctor during a deposition that, you had neck surgery 5 years ago. Because had the doctor known that, his opinions and whatever he might have said before certainly would have changed with that information. So it's very important for all of our clients to be completely upfront and honest with their doctors about any prior conditions they had and also be compliant with your treatment. And that's why I said, too, I think it's very important if you've had another doctor you treated with in the past, go see that doctor, right? If you have a doctor that you're treating with now and you don't think you're getting better or you're kind of at a point where not much is really happening, get a second opinion. It never hurts to get a second opinion. So. Yep.
And I'll give you one other example of a way I think a doctor can hurt your case, and that it's maybe not always the doctor, but their billing department. If the billing department or the doctor charges you more than they would charge for a certain procedure, like to an insurance company, it's significantly more. I mean, like if they would charge $100 for this procedure, but then they find out you're in a car wreck and they charge $500 for that procedure, well, the people that are making the decisions on settlement on the other side are going to look at that and say, that is not reasonable, and you actually lose credibility in your case there. But another way that doctors can help you in the billing department is if they're willing to bill, if you have health insurance, to bill it.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely, yeah. If you have health insurance, use your health insurance.
Use it. They might get paid less, but it's better for you in the long run. And then even if you don't have health insurance, sometimes they can help you by holding their bill and not making you pay every time you go in, so you can get the treatment that you need, and then they'll get reimbursed out of any settlement you get. And then another way they can help your case is on the back end that a lot of people don't know about, and that's if there's limited amounts of insurance, right? But your bills are really high. But you've got to pay those bills, and you've got to pay your lawyers and all that. So sometimes doctors that really have their patient's best interest in mind will be willing to reduce the total amount of their bills in order to help you get your case resolved.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I think we've hit a lot of it. Do you have anything you want to add about that?
No, I think that's it as far as doctors go. But just remember, do what they tell you to do. Comply with their treatment plan. Be nice to them, for goodness sake, because they can definitely help or hurt your case. So if this video has been helpful to you, we'd appreciate you subscribing to our channel, liking the video, or putting any comments in the section below if you know of any other ways that a doctor can help or hurt a personal injury case. Otherwise, we will see you next week for video number 9.
9, yep.